Hey everyone, my name is Jonathon Dornbush from IGN here. I am joined by Adam Volker from Flight School Studio, and we are playing Creature in the Well right now. We're outside the well, I would say, right? That's the best way to do it.
Yeah, so we're outside of the giant weather machine that's embedded into the mountain.
Do you want to show off anything out here before we go inside, or do you want to give people a little bit of a setup of this world?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So the game is centered around this tiny town here of Mirage, where the denizens are kind of afraid of you. And that's because the creatures told them not to speak to the outsider, the robot that they've never seen before. But there are secrets to find in town, and there's people to talk to. So the most important character in the entire game, to be honest, is Danielle. She is this dragon crocodile blacksmith who's as old as the mountain is, and is really excited that you're back to start the work to finish the work you started hundreds of years ago.
And what exactly is that work?
So, well, that's kind of the story of the game. I don't want to go too much into it.
How does the game end?
Yeah.
That's my favorite question to ask.
So what you're doing is you're slowly, room by room, powering an ancient weather facility that you might have started building. Like I said, you started building hundreds of years ago. And you're not sure what its purpose is, but you know that the creature definitely does not want you doing that.
I absolutely love the art style of this game.
Thank you.
Can you talk a little bit about either what inspired it or what you guys want to have come across as you're going through this world?
So the art style is inspired by one of my favorite comic book illustrators named Mike Mignola. He's the creator of Hellboy. And the way he draws darkness, the moody places that he takes Hellboy to, were a huge inspiration for what we wanted the inside of the mountain to feel like.
And so right now you're going into one of the sections.
Correct.
And so right now here we're looking at kind of basically what is the core
of
what you're doing in Creature in the Well.
The core gameplay. So it revolves around, we call it a pinball hack and slash, but it revolves around these two weapons that are categorized by striking and charging. So the charge tool will catch the ball, and you'll notice that a normal ball is kind of a dull gray, a dull white, and then as I charge it, it changes to blue. The more you level up, the more you can charge the ball, and the higher power level it'll get to. You'll notice that one of them, now they're starting to turn like a green color. And that sort of allows you to complete these bumpers, these enemies, in less hits.
Yeah, as you're going through all these weapons that you can find the different strike and charge tools, those are unlocked as you progress through the game?
Correct.
Okay. Do you find them along the way, or are they things you have to kind of go into the nooks and crannies of the mountain to find?
So you have to, you'll be able to find them by completing challenge rooms throughout the dungeons. Each dungeon has maybe 2 or 3 per dungeon. But we tried to hide them off the beaten path. So there's a critical path that you can get to. But yeah, we hope that discovering them is really fun and cool for players.
Yeah. And so, of course, we haven't encountered it as we're playing right now just yet, but it's in the title. There is this creature here.
There's a creature.
And I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about the characterization of the creature, because as I've played the game before at past previews, I think that's been one of the coolest aspects of this game.
Yeah, so the creature is a mysterious being that lives in the heart of the mountain. He's kind of a Belrog. Kind of a Belrog-y force, magical being that's sort of lived inside of this mountain for centuries. You uncovered it hundreds of years ago when you started building the machine, but he doesn't want you in there, and it's because, how do I say this without spoiling it? Because what you're doing is changing things, and the creature doesn't like change. The creature's really happy to be the center of everyone's attention inside of the well, inside of the town of Mirage. And he's not sure he wants you to change the situation he's got.
So right out here, the sort of this is back in the hub area that we've come back to. Can you come back here at any time after you've completed a dungeon? Okay.
You totally can. And you'll find that some of these doors are locked, like the red blinking light doors. There's a couple of them in town, and they unlock as you progress. So you should come back as often as you can to make sure you've discovered all of the secrets that are there.
And a little bit earlier, you were mentioning, obviously, the way you've been describing this game, pinball hack and slash, as the makeup. How much was pinball an inspiration, and how much has that kind of just developed out of as you were making this mechanic?
It's actually, the game started as a multiplayer sort of air hockey game.
Oh, okay.
And so pinball came in after we discovered that putting bumpers inside of that air hockey game was really fun. And we were like, well, this feels like a pinball game. So we started to look into them more. We weren't really traditionally fans of the genre, but it's a huge inspiration. Games like Breakout, games like Pong, and pinball, obviously, were super influential. We knew we were onto something because just hitting a ball like at a bunch of bumpers and watching them light up and hearing the sound is satisfying enough. We're like, well, we might have something here that we can work with.
Well, and as I've played, what I find most interesting is like you could just hit one ball and just keep hitting it and letting it go, but like finding the best paths, like you automatically get into that groove of, oh, how can I get the most out of this single hit of a ball?
Yes, right. So the skill shotting is what we wanted, the behavior we wanted to encourage, and that took us a long time to dial in. A ball won't continue to bounce if you don't interact with it. That's how we kind of solved that problem in the beginning, where we were, just kind of hitting a ball and like letting the puzzle complete itself.
Yeah.
Balls will stop, but that took a long time to find.
How what was the trickiest part of like nailing the great feel? Because like from what I've played, I feel like the response that you get as you're ping ponging these balls all around feels great. Like the response and feedback you get is immediate. Was there a lot of fine tuning you had to do for that?
There is, and I think Bo still would say there are things he wants to keep tweaking. The reticle was a big one, like that arrow that appears when you're charging the ball.
Yeah.
How big that was, how it behaves. We debated a lot about sticking. Do we keep the player? Do we lock the player when they're at the cardinal directions? Do we snap it for them? Whether we root the player or not was a big thing. Because right now, like you stay in place. If you hold the button down, you can actually tap it a bunch of times. But if you hold it down, you stay in place.
Yeah.
All of that stuff, like it should feel like features that you don't recognize but feel correct.
Gotcha. And so we were talking a little bit about the weapons earlier and how you can unlock these throughout the game. How demonstrably do they change that main mechanic?
Right, so hopefully a lot.
Yeah.
We like to think of them as Zelda weapons, meaning versus Dark Souls weapons, which to us means that they're functionally different but not statistically different.
Gotcha.
So like a game like Dragon Age or Dark Souls or whatever would give you like a 100 hit or 98 hit. Mm-hmm. We needed, because we had less, we thought it was more important to make them functionally different.
So we've seen a little bit of that town, and we've met just one other character besides the creature so far.
Right.
How much of a supporting cast is there to this game?
So there's just two.
Okay.
Roger and Danielle are the main people that you'll run into. Roger is the great-grandson of the architect of the machine. And he doesn't know a lot about it, but he's really, really excited about it. He's got a lot of books that he doesn't really know what they mean, but he's read them all over and over and over, made notes, copious notes on them. And he's really, really excited that you're back, that you're turning it on, and that he can actually go in the door that he's been like looking at for years.
Yeah.
And you the rest of the people in town are too afraid of you to come out of their houses. So you don't meet them. You don't get to meet them.
That's a shame.
We knew we wanted to be in the desert. We knew we wanted the story thematically to be about being insulated in your world and not seeing the bigger picture. And after that, it was kind of like building around what reinforced those ideas.
Okay.
We knew we wanted something to be really mysterious. We knew we wanted to sort of hint at players like how the world came together and the story was going to be delivered sort of like through lore and through the characters. Versus like the player creating or doing actions that like really advance the plot.
Gotcha.
But everything's kind of built around those concepts.
And the dungeons themselves, can you tackle them in any order? Is there somewhat of a set order?
Right. So you will. It's sort of like a tree.
Okay.
Where there's one trunk, and then there's a bigger branch, and then a bunch of littler branches. Okay. So like there's one at the beginning, and then there's three available, and then there's 5 available.
Gotcha.
And then the whole game opens up.
Okay.
So you can decide in the order you want to after that first one, but we really wanted to make sure we held your hand through the mechanical stuff of the first dungeon or so, before we really open the game up.
Are these sort of challenge areas present in every dungeon?
Yes, so these are our boss fights.
Gotcha.
Multi-tiered sort of like examples of the core mechanic of that dungeon, and where we get you actually involve the creature a little bit. So you'll notice he pops up and like releases these drones at you, but this is him like doing his best to try to stop you. We think of these like these devices that are doing damage to you as things the creature has tampered with and created himself. So the machine wasn't originally designed to be harmful.
Yeah.
But over the centuries, the creature's added all of these bits to it. So like it was originally your masterwork, and now he's corrupted it.
Okay. And I assume with each of these, are these like challenge room boss battles at the end, are they based on any of the new weapons that you get in that dungeon? Like, would those help you a bit
Definitely.
more, for sure?
Definitely. I'm so glad you said it. That's the answer to the question.
I shouldn't have said so many words in my question. But so obviously clear bit of Zelda influence there,
Yes,
for sure.
of course.
Yeah. Was there anything else that really influenced, like gameplay style wise?
I think that Bo would say the core mechanic was influenced a lot by Rocket League, and for him it was about he thought it was so novel that a game about controlling a ball gave you a weird, like a car to do it, and so he's like, I wanna make something about controlling an object, and I want to do that in a non-traditional way. So swords and dungeons were like a format people understood and knew already, and the ball was something we added to it. I guess that's kind of an answer to your earlier question too about pinball.
And do each of these, based on what dungeon you go to, obviously as you were saying, it's sort of like a tree, it branches continually upward and gets bigger. Do they scale with you, or is there going to be like one dungeon is always the hardest?
They do scale, yeah.
Okay,
well,
gotcha.
I mean, I have an opinion about that. I do think there is a dungeon that is the hardest, but they do scale with you.
Okay, gotcha.
It would be unwise to go into a later game dungeon without leveling up your core.
Okay.
But it's still possible to do.
Okay. Have you tried to run at like the lowest core level?
I just get too frustrated.
Fair enough.
So at the end of every dungeon, you'll enter like this control room, which represents sort of like the organize. How do I say it besides saying control room again? It's the control room of that part of the machine. And you'll find notes from Philip Frog, who was the project lead of the creation of this machine, and it's the largest part of where you put together like what the purpose of everything is and where it came from.
But Creature in the Well is coming to PC, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch.
Correct.
And it's coming out on
September 6th.
Awesome. Very excited to play the full game. Excited for people to see more of it. Thank you so much for taking the time and proving I really need to step up my game in Creature in the Well. But I'm looking forward to playing a lot more.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Thank you so much.